Did you know a singer on Star Trek helped change NASA's future as much as TV's? Imagine that! I'm Sarah Reed, and welcome to Golden American Legends. Today, I'm chasing one of my favorite curiosity spirals, Nichelle Nichols. Most people know her as Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek, which aired from 1966 to 1969. But here's the twist that grabbed me in the archives. NASA later said she symbolized to so many what was possible, and that she inspired generations to reach for the stars. I read their tribute and thought, wait, how did a TV communications officer become a real-life bridge to space? Nichelle wasn't just a character, she was a first, one of the earliest Black women with a steady co-starring role on American TV. That alone would be historic. But after the show, she turned that spotlight into action. I've been digging through NASA tweets and old interviews, and the story keeps getting bigger the deeper you go. Ever had a childhood role model show you what's possible? Drop your story in the comments and hit like if you love these hidden histories. So how did Lieutenant Uhura go from filming on Earth to inspiring actual astronauts? Let's find out, because this trail starts on a very different stage. Before the Starship Bridge, there was the stage. Nichelle Nichols grew up a singer and dancer with her heart set on Broadway. She said it herself later, "Broadway was always a dream to me. I was ready to leave Star Trek and pursue what I'd always wanted to do." I get that. I started my own journey in music and film history, and those early dreams shape everything. For Nichelle, the song and the spotlight came first. Then came Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry cast her as L10 Nyota Uhura, the cool, multilingual communications officer. It wasn't the career she imagined, it was the career that found her. And yet, even as Season 1 wrapped in 1967, she was ready to turn in her resignation to chase the stage. From the old interviews I dug up, you can feel her torn heart. She loved singing. She wanted to stretch. What strikes me is how normal that feels, a rising star wanting more than a few lines on a sci-fi set. She didn't know the cultural weight she already carried. Not yet, because one conversation, one voice from the civil rights movement was about to change everything and keep her on the bridge. 1966 changed the channel, literally. Gene Roddenberry cast Nichelle Nichols as Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek, making her the first African-American woman with a continuing co-starring role on American television. In the show's future, Uhura hailed from a United States of Africa, speaking languages, running comms, and making calm look easy. That choice was radical for primetime. The response from Black media was electric. The Norfolk Journal and Guide hoped her casting would broaden her race's foothold on the tube. Ebony magazine put her on its January 1967 cover, calling her the first Negro astronaut, a wink to TV outpacing real-life NASA at the time. I went back to those clippings, and the pride jumps off the page. Mainstream press began to notice too. This was the first time many viewers saw a Black woman on TV who wasn't a stereotype. But progress never lands quietly. A breakthrough like this can feel like a door opening and an alarm sounding at the same time. This triumph planted her in the center of a cultural storm, and the next part of her story shows how applause and resistance can arrive in the same week. Praise poured in, but pushback did too. For so many Black families, seeing Lieutenant Uhura on the bridge was a lifeline. Kids saw a future. Parents saw dignity on screen. Decades later, NASA's leader Bill Nelson would say her work held a mirror up to America that strengthened civil rights. I love that line because it nails what I feel watching those old episodes. The future looked integrated, competent, and calm. Yet, behind the scenes, Nichols faced racism. Fan mail sometimes didn't reach her. Hate mail did. That tension is the price pioneers pay. I've read accounts where she felt sidelined, underused, and worn down, and I believe her. In the late 1960s, Black women on TV were rare. Almost none had real authority. Uhura did. That's why the good and the ugly arrived together. When I teach this moment, I ask people to imagine being the only one at your desk who looks like you. Every day is proof and protest. Nichols carried that weight with grace. And soon, a single scene would turn the dial even higher. The next moment on screen was so bold, it still sparks debate today. A single scene in 1968 shook living rooms across America. Star Trek aired Plato's Stepchildren on November 22, 1968. In it, telekinetic aliens force Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura into a kiss. It is widely considered the first interracial kiss on American network television. Yes, there were earlier, smaller precedents in other media, but this was the big one. Primetime, national, impossible to ignore. Context matters. This aired just a year after Loving v. Virginia struck down interracial marriage bans. At the time, fewer than 20% of Americans approved of interracial relationships. So seeing a black woman and a white man kiss on screen wasn't just spicy TV, it was a challenge to the country. I went back to Smithsonian reporting on this, and honestly, you can feel the temperature of the moment. It's brave and messy and thrilling. Was the kiss forced by the plot? Sure, but the image still landed. It said, "The future does not fear this." It made people talk, cheer, and complain. And when the cameras cut, the pressure didn't. For Nichelle, the noise around her role, good and bad, was about to collide with her own private crossroads. Fame is loud. Being sidelined is louder. After season 1, Nichelle felt boxed in. She wanted more lines, more music, more growth. She also dealt with the quiet, crow stuff, racism from outside the set, and the stress of being first. So she made a choice. She wrote that she was ready to leave Star Trek and return to the stage she loved. "I was offered a role on Broadway. Broadway was always a dream, and I was ready to leave Star Trek." I can picture her drafting that resignation. I've spoken with artists who hit that same wall when the dream job turns into a small box. She handed in her letter, and for a moment, history hung by a thread. Here's what gives me chills. If she had walked away, a generation's mirror might have cracked. That bridge would lose a face that looked like the future. But life has a way of calling at the right time. Before the week was out, she went to an NAACP event in Beverly Hills. In that room, a voice she never expected stepped out of the crowd and changed her course. Picture this. Beverly Hills, 1967. An NAACP fundraiser hums. Nichelle spots a familiar face, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She walks over to say hello and to admit she's leaving Star Trek. Dr. King smiles and flips the script. He tells her he's her greatest fan. Then he says the line that stops her. "Nichelle, whether you like it or not, you have become a symbol. If you leave, they can replace you with a blonde-haired white girl, and it will be like you were never there. What you've accomplished will only be real if you stay." I've read her accounts of that moment so many times. I can hear his calm, urgent tone. He wasn't talking about TV ratings, he was talking about America's soul. He asked her to hold the line so others could cross it. Nichelle listened. The resignation turned into resolve. She stayed on the bridge, and that choice echoed far beyond Hollywood, because the next mission in her life would leap from fiction to reality and carry new voices all the way to space. Science fiction turned into science action. After Star Trek, Nichelle teamed up with NASA. She didn't just appear at events, she became a recruiter. In a NASA promotional film, she looked into the camera and urged women and people of color to apply to the astronaut corps. I tracked down that note in NASA's own materials, and it's clear, her voice made people feel welcome in rooms they had never seen. This wasn't a side gig, it was a mission. NASA later called her a trailblazer who showed people what was possible and inspired generations to reach for the stars. That spirit matches the Nichelle I see on screen, calm, clear, in command. If you're enjoying this deep dive, hit subscribe to Golden American Legends and tap like and share to keep stories like this alive. Her national push landed at just the right time. The agency was preparing a new astronaut class. Applications spiked, and soon the roster would include names you already know, proof that a TV star's call could open training doors at the real space agency. The next selection would write firsts into the sky. Then came the firsts. In 1978, NASA selected a new astronaut class. Two names stand out, Sally Ride and Guion Guy Bluford. Ride would fly in 1983 as America's first woman in space. Bluford would fly in 1983 as the first Black American in space. NASA leaders credit Nichelle's campaign with helping inspire those historic steps. When I read those bios again, I thought about that recruiting film and the young people who saw it and and said, "Why not me?" Bill Nelson put it plainly. After Apollo 11, Nichelle made it her mission to inspire women and people of color to join this agency, change the face of STEM, and explore the cosmos. That is a job description for a legend. These aren't just names on a plaque. They are lives changed and doors unlocked. You can draw a line from a set in 1966 to a launch pad in the 1980s, and that line keeps going, because the next chapter of U.S. spaceflight points back to Nichelle's promise of inclusion and forward to the moon. NASA didn't just thank Nichelle, it adopted her spirit. Administrator Bill Nelson said Nichelle's mission is NASA's mission. As the agency works to send the first woman and the first person of color to the moon under Artemis, he added that NASA is guided by her legacy. Think about that. A character on a starship helped write real mission goals. Artemis aims to return humans to the moon in the mid-2020s and build a path to Mars. The message is clear. The crew must look like the people they serve. That mirrors what Nichelle modeled on TV, an integrated future where talent, not skin color, gets the seat. I love how full circle this feels. I've combed through NASA's statements and tributes, and the through line is undeniable. Her work on screen set expectations. Her work with NASA made them real. And now, every Artemis briefing that highlights inclusion sounds like an echo of her voice. The mirror she held up still reflects a better tomorrow. Her influence keeps rolling forward. On screen, you now see women of color as captains, scientists, and heroes across new Star Trek shows and other sci-fi worlds. Off-screen, labs and mission control rooms are filled with people who grew up watching Uhura and felt seen. When Nichols passed, NASA's tribute said she inspired generations to reach for the stars. That line isn't poetry, it's a headcount. She even flew as a NASA guest on the Sophia Observatory aircraft in 2015, smiling like a kid again while chasing starlight at 40,000 feet. I pulled that detail and the tribute language from NASA's own materials, and you can feel the affection. It's respect earned over decades. This is why I do this work. Stories like Nichelle's show how pop culture can shift real life. A single casting choice in 1966 becomes a recruiting poster in the 1970s, a shuttle crew in the 1980s, and a moon crew in our time. The echo keeps traveling, and we're lucky enough to hear it. What if Nichelle had left Star Trek? I think our screens and our skies would be smaller. She was born in 1932 and passed away on July 30, 2022, at age 89. In that span, she sang on stage, spoke power to TV, and recruited new voices to space. NASA called her a symbol of what's possible and said she inspired generations to reach for the stars. That's the arc. Dream, act, widen the path. For me, her greatest gift is the mirror. She held it up and said, "This is who we are and this is who we can be." And she stayed, even when it was hard, so others could step through the door. If this story moved you, please subscribe, like, and share. It helps more people find these deep dives, and it keeps this work going. Thanks for watching. What's Nichelle Nichols' greatest achievement, in your view? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your memories. And hey, whose legend should we explore next? I'm already digging into the archives for another journey from screen to society.